Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's about 7 p.m. Eastern Time here in Miami, Florida. I'm SuzetteSpeaks, TV host and attorney, and welcome to all of you watching out there, whether you're watching live, either on my Facebook page or on my YouTube channel, or if you're watching on Team Replay, welcome. I have a wonderful guest who's going to help lead a legal discussion here tonight. You know, when we lady lawyers get together, the conversation is always interesting to say the least, but we are also going to touch on a very sensitive topic. And again, I want to first and foremost start by sharing my sincere condolences to the family and all who loved Kevin Samuels. As you guys probably know, he unfortunately had an untimely passing recently, and we were curious as lady lawyers just chatting about what would happen, as lawyers do, as to what would happen to all of his digital catalog, his assets, the way he has been making money. And we know that when it comes to setting up trusts, when it comes to setting up wills, when it comes to passing along our legacies, especially in the African American community, we don't always prepare the way we should. So that is not to throw shade. That is just an open and honest way of just starting this discourse today, that no matter who we are, we all got something. And that's one thing I remember. And Sandy B. Law, my special guest, will back me up. My property teacher would say, you have assets. You don't think you have assets, but you do have assets. You own something, whether it's a single bank account, whether it's a car, whether it's a traditional asset like a home, or whether it's something like what we have in this scenario, which is digital. As a YouTube content creator, we are now laying out a different type of legacy, a legacy that includes all of our videos for as long as YouTube lives. It's the craziest thing. And because this is a new type of digital property, I thought it would be very interesting to take a legal viewpoint at all the things that have transpired in the last few weeks. Many of us have been talking about Mr. Samuels and his passing in various ways, but I wanted to bring a uniquely legal conversation to the space so that we can kind of both analyze his life, but more importantly, analyze our own. If you ever have watched a SuzetteSpeaks show, you know that at my core, my intent is to uplift, to create understanding, to empower. And when we share on legal topics like we are going to share tonight, please, know that we cannot give you direct legal advice, because that always happens. Everybody wants to come in the chat and ask me about your auntie them and whoever had this type of property, or your cousin got a YouTube channel, so what's up? So we are going to keep it in generalizations. But I have an expert who happens to be, in full disclosure, from my neck of the woods here in Miami. She also has her own law firm, and she was just as curious about me as I was, just as curious as I was when it came to what really is going to happen to all this money. So she has done some research. Of course, we are in Florida and we practice Florida law. And, Mr. Samuels passed away in Georgia. So that's a whole different body of law. As you may or may not know, each state has its own laws. So wherever you reside, and sometimes it depends on where an incident has occurred, it depends on, that will determine, as a better way to put it, which body of law governs. You also have documents that people sign, contracts, agreements of use, terms of use, that will tell you which bodies of law apply. But oftentimes when we get into, spaces like YouTube, something that is new, on the cutting edge, less familiar to us, oftentimes we don't go very deeply into those terms and conditions. So we're going to try to unpack them tonight. Again, we are going to go a little bit further into the discussion about the legacy of Mr. Kevin Samuels. And again, tonight, we are going to take it from a legal perspective. I have my sister-in-law here, not my real sister-in-law, but my sister who practices law, a probate attorney who has done some wonderful work for me, referring people to her, just FYI. But on top of that, she has a YouTube channel too. Actually, she has a podcast that she does with a sister-in-law as well. They came on my show, LearnBiz The Podcast. Shout out to Lisa. So Sandy and Lisa host LearnBiz The Podcast, and you'll see it in the chat. Thank you, RM, for dropping it. And you also see Sandy B. Law. I put it in the chat nice and early, so y'all can go check them out and subscribe. We want to support one another in this space, and we want to elevate the conversation. So are y'all ready for a good conversation? I hope so. So again, tonight, what happens to Kevin Samuels' digital assets? It's going to be a good one, y'all. Hit the like button as you come in. My special guest is YouTuber and attorney like myself, Sandy B. Law. Again, the link is being dropped, y'all. Check her out. And I want to welcome you if this is your first time to the SuzetteSpeaks show. Welcome, guys. I'm an attorney and a TV host here in South Florida. I love talking social justice, a little bit of legal topics like tonight. I like talking current events, personal development, growth, mental health, and of course, relationships when y'all want me to. So I have a little bit of a smorgasbord right now going on my channel. For example, next week I have Intentional Millionaire on Monday, talking about how to really create additional income for yourself. On Tuesday, I usually go live Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesday, I have Perry Unlikely coming through. And Thursday, I have the Harrison family. I think they're called blogs. And Harrison family, I can't wait for him to come on because he was like, is our selection process keeping us single? Oh man, y'all want these topics. Okay, I'm giving it to you. So you guys tell me, you want to talk a little bit of relationships, you want to talk a little bit of social justice and law, you want to talk about self-improvement, self-awareness, self-empowerment. So we're going to do a little bit of that until I kind of feel out where I truly belong on this landscape. So all of these things are things that I'm genuinely interested in. So I just decided to take, my talents from real life to these YouTube streets. And so far it has been a wonderful journey. So if you would consider subscribing, and while you come in, hit the like button. As I said, we have a legal topic today discussing probate, discussing digital assets, aspects of our lives that we don't really think about sometimes. So we want to be sure, though, that you understand all of the stuff that we're talking about is for informational purposes only. We are not giving legal advice. Make that clear. If you do have a specific question, I want you to contact an attorney where you live, right? In the jurisdiction where you live, so that they can properly analyze your specific issue and render a legal opinion for you. But tonight, we are not doing any kind of way, shape, or form of legal advice. This is informational and for entertainment purposes only. So if you are ready, I also want to, before I bring my guests on, just shout out my Patreon members. I'm trying to arrange our next Patreon small group discussion. We do a lot of the personal development piece over there, talking to people who have lived interesting lives. They are not available. Those interviews, I should say, are not available on YouTube. They are exclusive. And you'll also get to know me a little bit more through those discussions. So shout out to my Patreon members. Y'all go over there and support the content. We content creators really enjoy what we're doing. And sometimes it's a labor of love. So all of your support. Last night was the bomb, y'all. Let me just stop and just pause and just thank my girl. I am Courtney Michelle. She came through, blessed us with her presence, spoke her piece, spoke her truth about what Kevin Samuels meant to her. So if you didn't catch that show, go back and watch it, please. Phenomenal perspective that's not really being promoted and out there, as we've heard so many folks commenting and saying what they had to say, but from someone who knew him personally and could speak directly to his impact on her life. Thank you, Courtney Michelle. We also had Monday, boss attorney Bree come in or come on over and do some work as well when it comes to her topic. She is a family law practitioner trademark as well, and came over talking a little bit about male victims of domestic violence and what they can do. So we've had like the heavy hitters. The ladies have represented. Okay, so next week I'm doing it for the brothers. The ladies came through strong this week. Again, I go live in the evenings, usually around 7, 8 o'clock. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays at 12 noon. So I think I'm going to do Saturday as an open chat this Saturday, but go ahead and hit the notification button. If you're just joining, hit the like button as well. I have a guest YouTuber, a sister-in-law, Sandy B. Law is joining me tonight to discuss what's going to happen to all of Kevin Samuel's digital assets. We know he put in work, y'all. One thing you can't say about him is that he was in any form lazy. He put in work. So now, where does all that go? How should we as content creators start to think about those things again? We're going to be speaking for information, not as in specific legal advice. Miss Sandy B, as any attorney, I couldn't expect anything less, but I was so impressed. She got slides for us, y'all. She did the research. She's like, Sue, I went down a rabbit hole for you, girl. I appreciate you so much. But get them likes up. Everyone in here, please hit the like button so I can bring up my guests. Let me just greet just a couple people in the chat. Y'all know I like to say hello to you. But welcome, everyone. I appreciate you being here. Thanks to my wonderful community. We call ourselves the speakers because, we got something to say. Big up to all of the speakers in the chat. All of my subs, welcome back. Again, if you're brand new, consider subscribing and hit the like button. Let me say hello to a couple people and bring up Miss Sandy. Hey, RM, always number one. Or I'm glad you're here. One of my fantastic moderators, PA in the building. I see you, Doug. Welcome. I see you guys again. I have dropped the link for Sandy B. Law, so make sure you check out her channel. She has fantastic information over there, and we're just going to get a taste of it tonight. Brenda, what's up? Nice to see you. Welcome. Hey, Rose. Nice to see you. Welcome. We're excited to have you. I love to see you. Good to see you, Sunbreeze. Thank you for being here. Hey, Magnificent says, sup, Suzette, dope show. Yes, so you listen. Courtney, Michelle exceeded all expectations. Okay, I could not even have predicted that show would have come together as beautifully as it did, as raw, as authentically as it did. I got so much DMs. Thank you, everyone who DM'd me or emailed me. Fantastic show. All of you guys have left messages underneath the show, the comments. Thank you. But literally, I was only this much of that equation. Miss Courtney Michelle represented her experiences with Mr. Samuels very well, and they're undeniable. So it opened my eyes, and hopefully it opened a lot of other people's eyes too, to who he is. Yeah, I see you, Sandy B, in the chat. Thank you. I appreciate everyone being here. Samuel, howdy. Nice to see you. Wow. Yeah, I see some new names. Pretty girl. I'm sure KS's daughter will be taken care of by his estate. I like that. I like the way you're thinking. We're going to get into it just momentarily. Respect and love to everyone. Miss AKA Lady, good to see you. How are you, Quita G, in the building? Good to see you, my darling. Thanks for coming through. Detroit, the D represented. Hey, Mona D, nice to see you. Lando, what's up? Says Charlotte in the building. Wagwan, Brown Gal, Peace Lounge. Great to see you, sis. Thanks for being here. Bay Area, says Sunbreeze. And again, thanks for everyone. Sandy says she ready. I'm excited too, Sandy. Yes, thank you. Kav First Lady says, very interesting and informative. Yes, open my eyes. I was a student yesterday, and I'm somewhat of a student in this discussion because I do not practice probate and estate law, right? I do personal injury, right? And I've done real estate in the past. So those are my two specific areas of expertise. So I have a broader understanding of this, but I will be pulling up a chair and taking my notes too as we discuss what's going on. Okay, appreciate you, Van. Okay, coming through. Y'all so funny. Trish, Wagwan. Nice to see you. All of folks watching overseas. Big up yourselves to my international audience. Oh my gosh, like I said, I've seen views from Norway and Hungary, and I'm like, wow, this YouTube thing is amazing. It is really amazing that I'm coming into your phones or your laptops all over. So without further ado, I want to say hi to everybody, but you know how it go. Hit the like button, please, as you come in. Again, our topic for tonight, without further ado, is Kevin Samuel's digital assets. What happens to them? And we're going to go through some, what should I say? We're not going to have a law school tonight, are we, Miss Sandy B? But she did come prepared. I love it. And she is the expert tonight. So I am grateful that she said yes and that she's going to enlighten all of us tonight. So without further ado, please give a warm SuzetteSpeaks show. Welcome to Sandy B. Law. Wagwan, Sandy. You got to unmute, baby. I'm sorry. I always mute
I was
my
going to
guests.
talk to myself.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Suzette. Appreciate this opportunity to chat with folks about this important topic.
I love it, and I'm not gonna tarry. They say I long stroke, but I like to talk to my people. So first and foremost, introduce yourself and what you do on your two channels, LearnBiz the Podcast, as well as Sandy B. Law.
So I am Sandy B. Law. I'm an auntie. I'm an attorney. I have a book coming out sometime, hopefully soon. And I do a lot of different advocacy work in different areas, whether it be autism, whether it be educating folks on generational wealth and legacy building. And just as a little backstory, I did a room on Clubhouse on this very topic, and we kind of talked about his legacy and things like that. And it's just so interesting, the things that people don't understand and the things that people think they understand. But my backstory in terms of my channels, I started the Sandy B. Law channel so that I can focus on some of my advocacy areas. So when I'm talking about autism is one area, when I'm talking about any estate planning and guardianship and those types of issues. And then LearnBiz the Podcast is my passion project with my partner, Lisa K. Crawford. We basically support Black entrepreneurs, and we provide education by interviewing different entrepreneurs in different industries. So we get a lot of bang for our time, going through a lot of different industries and topics and learning about people's struggles in entrepreneurship.
Love it. And I want to just do a quick plug. I'll be on LearnBiz the Podcast next Tuesday. So I got two shows on Tuesday, Sandy. I'm coming to you guys 6 p.m. and then Perry Unlikely at 8 p.m.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because I love YouTube, right? So I'm doing double duty next Tuesday. But LearnBiz the Podcast, as she says, I've been watching, and she and her partner Lisa have been on this channel. Go back and watch it. It was actually about stereotypes that hurt Black women. We had a great conversation, but they talk business, and they talk about, entrepreneurial struggle, as you just explained, and the journey, what people learn, the do's, the don'ts. And so if there's a desire for anyone who's watching to learn more about business or going into business for yourself, go to LearnBiz the Podcast. It's very interesting. And I'll be sharing my own story. You guys want more? Go and watch. I will make sure to drop the link and the flyer in my community page. So next Tuesday, 6 p.m., mark your calendars. I'll be over on their channel hanging out. And then I'll be back over here with Perry Unlikely later that night. So I'm excited to have you, Sandy. Without further ado, thanks for being here again, y'all. Please consider go subscribe to Sandy, because she and on both channels, really. I love the fact that, again, we are both very well-rounded people. Yes, we are attorneys, but I love the fact that you highlight that we have other stuff going on. We have other interests, other people that we love, and you want to express it. So yes, why are attorneys on YouTube? Yeah, that we are creative. We're all these other things. So don't limit us. I was saying that yesterday, but I'm going to get off my soapbox. So let me go straight to where we are, where we're going to start tonight, Sandy. So yes, and the untimely passing of Mr. Samuels. He left a lot, right? So talk a little bit first and foremost so we can ground you as far as what you do in your practice and the type of law you've been very familiar with.
So when I first started out, I was focused exclusively on estate planning. So wills, power of attorney, those types of things. When I started really working in the field, I started to work in the areas of probate and guardianship, which is really where all of the action is, because most people don't want to get their plans in order. So where I see most action is in probate, which is the court process that handles, when you pass away, who is going to receive the things that you owned. And then the guardianship side is basically the living side. If you become unable to handle yourself, your medical care, your finances, someone has to be appointed to serve as your guardian. And that is both places are places where we can lose out on wealth very, very heavily. So I learned both areas, which strengthened my understanding of estate planning and the importance of estate planning. So now I'm like on a mission. It's like I have to really educate folks on the nuance to it. It's very basic. It's about plan. So if you have a plan, now you have to put that plan into writing. You have to put it into action, and then you have to put the right people into place to really handle your plans.
So it's again, I bring folks up here who know what they're talking about. Is basically what I want people to see, that she's not coming from left field. Again, has a lot of experience with all different sides, the probate, the guardianship, etc. So I wanted you to kind of lay out, your background so that everyone is familiar. But yeah, as we get into the discussion, there's a lot of YouTube chatter again with where the money gonna go. Let's just call it like what it's gonna be. So let's start by defining our terms. So we're talking digital assets. Let's
Right.
start by defining what is a digital asset.
So to understand what a digital asset is, you got to get a big picture visual. And I almost feel like I should show this slide first. Let me take it to the image.
Oh, we done took it to the slide. Y'all
We got to take it to the
slides.
slides.
You ready? Okay, cool.
So for people to fully understand what your digital assets are, remember that we are creators. And whatever you put out there as a creator is your asset. But remember that we are accessing these assets and storing them using different things. So while you are watching us here on YouTube right now, you are using a digital device.
Right.
And that digital device, you are connecting to a digital account, YouTube. But the content, what Suzette is creating here through this live stream, is the asset. And with that asset comes value, super chats, advertising money, any other income that you get, sponsorship, the residual things that happen when people have like Patreon and locals and Teachable and all of these other things that roll out from that. So you, in essence, have something that you are creating that has to live somewhere, but it doesn't live in the way that we would normally expect assets to. It's not in a bank account. It's not, stored at home. It's not a real piece of real estate. It's not something you can really touch, but you are experiencing it in much of a cloud. So just so that you understand, every single thing that you are creating, the information, the organization of it, the way that you structure things, the visuals, all of those fall into your digital assets.
So, wow. So I'm thinking about even Sandy, I have a lot saved on my Gmail and the cloud.
All of
Thinking
that.
about those things, think about stuff that is like even on things like Canva and other platforms that we YouTube content creators use to make our thumbnails and make other, parts of our shows. This can be very broad and go very wide. Y'all hit the like button. Coming in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Suzette Speaks here alongside Sandy B. Law. We already got the lineup when it comes to the slideshow. She did some homework, y'all. We are Florida Law. Both of us practice here in South Florida. She's also looked up some Georgia law so we can kind of contextualize it for what may. Again, everything that we're saying is conjecture. We are not the estate planning attorneys for Mr. Samuels, okay?
Right.
So we're taking our legal experience and allegedly placing what may happen out there so that we can have a discussion, right? So this is for discussion and informational purposes only. So, okay, so a digital asset literally can be, it's a broad definition. If you create it on any digital platform, it is a part of your ownership of an asset. So that's great to outline. So digital accounts can literally be everywhere. So what is, I guess I won't say step one, but let's get into how we protect them. Because we've created all these accounts in all these different places. No one knows the passwords. How people gonna get into your Facebook? How people gonna get into, all of these things? People pass away, unfortunately, all the time. So what's the best way, I guess we can start with, to protect them?
So the key that I want people to understand is when it comes to estate planning, which is a concept I feel like our community does not understand at all. We think it's something for the wealthy, it's that's the rich folk stuff. That's them. It is something that we each have to do for ourselves, but we have to start with identifying what our plan is. And if you think about estate planning as a whole, the core word is plan. What is your plan for everything that you own at the time of your death, at the time of your incapacity, at a time when you're just unable to manage your affairs yourself? What exactly is your plan? And once you've identified that plan, you can then identify what are your avenues of protecting it. So when we talk about digital assets, for example, you have to keep in mind that we're dealing with two different worlds. We're dealing with the world of contracts, and we're dealing with the world of probate and guardianship. The world of contracts is typically pretty cut and dry, but there's always a room for exception. So when you enter into an agreement to use a platform to place your digital assets, please understand that that agreement is what controls your relationship. And so when you decide to upload that YouTube video and you haven't looked at the terms and conditions that apply to, well, what happens to that video if I am no longer, then you're missing a big piece of the pie because you didn't plan for what's to happen to that. And I'm going to tell you one important thing that I've noticed with Google is you have to dictate to Google what you want to happen when your account just becomes inactive, period. Whether it's inactivity because of your passing, just your temporary separation, or any other circumstances that may happen to you.
And Google owns YouTube.
Yes.
So in any scenario, if that account becomes inactive and it's just sitting out there,
Right.
if it's so we got two things. We have contract law coming into play. And of course, you have to also look at what's going on in the state bodies of law that where you live. So we are going to do a little legal heavy lifting. But again, I always caution you guys, everything here is for discussion, informational, entertainment purposes. So if you are looking to protect your assets, you got to call Sandy B for real. And you got to ask her directly about your specific scenario, your specific circumstances, so she could come up with a legal plan for you. So that's not the intent tonight. Tonight is just for informational purposes. So Sandy B, you've already said so much. I'm here trying to kind of go with the flow where other people may follow us. Again, being two lady lawyers, it's probably easier for me to know what you're saying, but I want to make sure we talk about things kind of in order. So you spoke about like the terms and conditions of a platform. Right. So let's start there. What does YouTube have in store, or Google, the parent company, have in store when you reviewed some of their terms and conditions?
Look, let me tell you, when I started really digging around, I was like, how come I can't just type in someone passes away or something simple and find the answer?
Wow.
But what I ended up doing was I was starting to search for questions, what happens? What happens if? Then I would go to like YouTube, what happens if? So I found that Google has a specific section to identify what you want to happen if your account becomes inactive. And it's basically the section that would be controlling in this type of situation, but also considering that the person who is going to handle the estate also has a influence in this situation. And when we get to the definitions, we'll talk about that. But Google has a section called Inactive Account Manager. And honestly, the easiest way to find it is just Google it, Inactive Account Manager. And it walks you through a series of steps because it says Inactive Account Manager is a way for users to share parts of their account data or notify someone if they've been inactive for a certain period of time. And then it walks you through some steps that you have to complete because it says, plan what happens to your data if you can't use your Google account anymore. Decide when Google should consider your account to be inactive and what we do with your data afterwards. You can share it with someone you trust or ask Google to delete it. And it literally walks you through step by step. Decide when Google should consider your Google account inactive. Choose who to notify and what to share. Decide if your inactive Google account should be deleted. So again, look what Google is telling you for your YouTube channel and any other materials that are digital assets. You have to decide. And it's not to say that your estate may not have a role because of course, the courts can issue orders and things like that. But remember, when you are uploading information to these platforms, you clicked agree to something that you probably didn't read. And that agree says you agree to several long documents, their terms and conditions, and their privacy policy. And that's a lot of words to ignore and then just go on and load up things onto a platform. So you just have to really keep in mind where we are in this whole scheme of things.
Yeah. So again, reading the fine print, I think, is the baseline of what she's describing. Because most of us, when we join a, Facebook, when we join a YouTube, when we join anything, create a Gmail account, we're not really planning on the day where it won't be, us logging into it for whatever reason. Incapacitation, passing away, something else happens. There's a lot of things that can happen where you yourself cannot access your email, access your Facebook or other. I'm using those too, but to not get sued, any social platform is what I mean. I just mean in a generic way. So understanding that there is an option taught me something already, right, to tell, and as she says, dictate to them how they know your account is inactive. 5 years haven't touched it, 2 years haven't touched it, whatever, I'm just making up a number. And then who will they grant access to? Who do you want them to grant access to? So it's good to know that this is already built in, especially on this platform that we are using right now. So there is an option to predetermine who would be given access to your accounts. And you can do that now. You can select that now. This is interesting in terms of pre-planning. What else did you find, Sandy B?
So now I'm going to go to the slides, because here's where this whole situation becomes interesting. Because remember that I said we're dealing with contract law, and then we're dealing with probate/guardianship type law, right? Civil yes. courts, local, county based. Mm-hmm. So when I started to really do some digging, I was like, oh, let's think of it from this perspective. When laws were created regarding our assets, we didn't really have the level of technology that we have now, right? So most of our laws did not really account for this digital concept of having an asset. It's kind of like when you think of things like cryptocurrency, no one really accounted for, we're going to have currency, at least big scale, right? We're going to have currency where it's going to be technologically based. And we're going to have things like NFTs and the metaverse and all. Nobody really pinpointed that, right? Somebody could have predicted it. But now the laws have to try to catch up. And to give you an example of how technology has impacted the law so much, here in Florida, we now have what's called electronic wills, remote online notarization. All of these things came about because technology has to push us to catch up, so that the laws can align with what we really need, right? Because we need, based on COVID in particular, we needed to be able to transact business electronically. Well, how are you going to do a will if you can't do it electronically completely when we're on shutdown, right? So we had to have mechanisms in place. Same goes here. So let's dig in, right?
All right, y'all. Here we go. We're going to take up the slides now. I'm excited. Take me back to law school. No, just kidding. All right, guys, enjoy this. I thank you so much for putting this together, Sandy B.
All right. So, we're talking about what happens. Specifically, we're using Kevin Samuel's situation as a landmark, right? Like a sample. It's not per se that we're talking about him, because none of us are dealing with his estate. And as we learn more, maybe we'll come back and talk about that.
Again, we don't have access to the information. We are just creating a platform to discuss what are the potential outcomes based on the legal knowledge we have.
So I'm trying to find Georgia law. I'm trying to figure out Georgia law because, Georgia and Florida, we do two different things. But what I came to find out was our laws are very similar in language. So the first thing that led me down the rabbit hole was this access to digital assets. Terms of service agreements and privacy policies govern access, right? So when I go onto YouTube or Gmail or whatever it is, their terms and conditions basically control what I do on their platform. But most of those would expire when the user died and was not transferable. So that was a problem, because when you think about probate courts, for someone to have any assets, they have to be transferred to the people that deserve to receive them. But when you present paperwork to these entities like a Google and say, hey, I have court paperwork that says I'm entitled to this, and Google's like, no, you don't. We have these terms and conditions, so you don't have anything. So that became a clash, right? So surviving family members were not able to access people's electronic accounts. So it ended up that since most state laws that govern the actions of things like a personal representative really didn't account for the fact that there was going to be this clash. There had to be a change, right? Because we needed email access, we needed social media access, but they were saying, oh, wait a minute, terms and conditions, we say no. So at least 48 states at this time, and of course this could be, there could be a slight change in this, but have enacted laws specifically addressing digital assets. And it's so funny because I didn't even think that we had whole sections of laws covering specifically just this, but we do, both here in Florida as well as in Georgia. So I'm going to go through, let me see here. I'm going to go through 3 things that I want you to understand. I want us to be able to understand the definitions of what we mean by digital assets and the different components of that, right? I want us to understand how it compares to the Google and YouTube or all those terms and conditions. And then we'll talk a little bit about estate planning and probate. So let's look at this definition here, right? So in Florida and Georgia, the definition of a digital asset under their state laws is pretty much identical. They probably just changed a word because, we lawyers, we can't just get it right. We have to add some different stuff to make it sound good. But a digital asset means, here in Florida, an electronic record in which an individual has a right or an interest. So in the case of Kevin Samuels, he is the user, right? He has a right to his content that he's putting here on this platform of YouTube. The term does not include an underlying asset or liability unless the asset or liability itself is an electronic record. So I want you to think about this. You own the content that you put onto YouTube, but you don't own, the devices, you don't own the mediums by which that digital asset is stored and accessed. So you really only own the right or interest in what you have created. So that's the first core. And in Georgia, the language was exactly the same. All they did was say it shall not instead of does not. Gotta love Georgia, right? Fiduciary. So this is an important term that we lawyers love to throw around because, we got to have some fancy words. So here in Florida, a fiduciary means an original, additional, or successor personal representative, guardian, agent, or trustee. Look what they've done here, right? They've added all of these different types of people who would have authority to act on behalf of someone else. That's what a fiduciary is. It's somebody that has the authority to do something, but they also have a responsibility to act in the best interest of that person. So if, for example, you have a personal representative handling an estate or a trustee, let's say Kevin Samuels has a trust and that trust has these interests, that individual would be able to handle on behalf of the estate what needs to be taken care of. But again, here we go. Language is still the same. We have guardian for Florida. We have conservator for Georgia. So same concept, just different states and different rules apply. The word account. I love this because look at Florida adding all this extra words and Georgia's just like, look, it's real simple. We don't have to go through all that. So an account means an arrangement. Look at this word here. We're not talking about it's just a thing. This is an arrangement under a terms of service agreement in which the custodian, and guys, we're not the custodian. YouTube is the custodian, right? In which the custodian carries, maintains, processes, receives, or stores a digital asset of the user. So let's bring this to our situation here. Kevin Samuels is the user, YouTube is the custodian, and the account is the account that he has access to, which has, all of his rights and interests, right? Or stores a digital asset of the user or provides goods or services to the user. Now, remember here on YouTube, what do we have? A lot of different things that connect to our YouTube channel, a lot of issues and services and goods and products that we connect with. And then look at Georgia. Georgia's like, we don't need all that carries, maintains, and whatever. We just need which provides, right? We're good with that. That's sufficient. Now, the word custodian, again, means a person that carries, maintains, processes, receives, or stores a digital asset of a user. Again, Kevin Samuels, user, digital asset, his channel, and everything that goes with that. And the custodian is, again, the carrier, the maintainer, the processor. That will be YouTube. So let's look at this terms of service agreement. Now, none of us, I'm sure, have really taken a look. Like I printed this sucker out and I was like, I'm not reading this. But I will tell you this. Terms of service agreement means an agreement that controls people. Do you see this word? Controls the relationship between a user and a custodian. So please keep in mind, they're not looking at your YouTube channel as a thing that you own. They're not looking at it as just something, right? It is a relationship that we've entered into with our custodian YouTube, right? They're in charge, right? They're the custodian, the controller. And the agreement that we just clicked right through controls our ability to utilize our own digital assets. So we're like prisoners in our own.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me jump in because I was going fast. I was reading the chat. Sandy, you doing work, baby. I appreciate you. Quita G on the super says, this is a very informative topic. Sorry to break your flow, sis, but I just wanted to acknowledge that you're doing work here. Y'all getting this work tonight. This is an important conversation, she says. Some of this information will be important for ordinary people who don't necessarily own digital assets. Kudos, ladies. Thanks for showing some love. Quita G on the super chat. But yeah, I love it because I think the way that we approach our digital assets is very casual. Right. We are clicking OK. Do you agree to these terms of service? Click, checkbox, scroll all the way down through 10 pages, click, and like it's like it's gone. But if the laws are saying that these agreements between the custodian and the user, YouTube being an example of a custodian, Mr. Samuels or any of us on this space being an example of a user, it is actually quite eye-opening, to say the least, to see that, wait a minute, these terms of agreement, and Mr. Samuels, rest in peace, has said that actually on several occasions when I've seen him on other people's channels. Like, do you know the YouTube service terms? You know who you're doing business with? Because they are controlling the asset. So, Quita, I saw you put a comment in earlier that they control your asset. They own. It's kind of a nuance. It's a little bit of a nuance because we possibly, and Sandy, correct me, own it, but they control it by having the means, basically, of it living, for lack of a better term, on their platform. So there's a dance there. And again, we were speaking in informational terms, but again, this stuff is argued when you take stuff to court. What does this law mean? This is what we do. We parse and go through the statutes. We look at the intent of those who wrote the statute when they wrote it. But what I'm glad, Sandy B, I just wanted to pause here too. What you said in the opening was very important. I didn't want to gloss over it, but we were kind of in the flow. Right. When a lot of these laws were written, as she said, things like a Bitcoin, things like a YouTube, things like all of this did not even exist. And this reminds me, I hearken back to Ketanji Brown Jackson's hearing when she was in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee and being asked about what she did with certain types of defenders that sent, very crude and illegal matters concerning children. You guys can read between the lines. She said when they were talking about how much penalty they were going to give, they were talking when the law was written, it was people were sending mail with pictures. There was never a concept when those laws were written. There was no internet yet. Right. So that someone could click a button and send you 20,000 pictures. There was no concept. So when she was giving her explanation as to what some of the sentences that she handed down meant, it was simply because no one, when these were written, they were talking about egregious abuse, as in by the mail system. So it's very interesting to see that across the board, as Sandy has said, states have had to try to update, catch up, and try to adapt to what people have going on in their lives now. So it's very important that we understand that a lot of this did not even exist. And so laws now have been updated. And Sandy, you're doing a beautiful job. I'm going to put back the slides of explaining kind of what the state laws and just comparing Florida to Georgia. Again, we operate and work and are barred in Florida. And Mr. Samuels, of course, passed away in Georgia. So we're just doing a compare and contrast, guys. And I hope you're enjoying it. Hit the like button if you are. And we're getting back right into it. Go ahead, ma'am.
So, it's always interesting when you're looking at the language of the law, because people will think that, we're drastically different. We're really not. The issue comes down to, though, every state is kind of ruled by their own laws, with the exception of the federal government that can kind of, trump certain things. But the terms are pretty much the same, is what I wanted people to understand here. So in the big picture context, yes, Kevin Samuel's estate will likely have some positioning, right? Because look at the relationship conversation. But please keep in mind, this is a dance, like Suzette said, and there are some things in their terms and conditions that might need to be satisfied. And while maybe access to the account may be had in certain ways, other things may not be able to be done. So it really is going to depend. Because remember, the agreement controls the relationship.
Yes. So these terms and conditions, guys, let's get into it. Miss Sandy B. Law doing work. Y'all hit the like button as you come in. Discussing tonight what happens to Kevin Samuel's digital assets. Again, we are here for discussion and informational purposes only. We are not the attorneys doing the probate, clearly, and we are just going by what's public information right now. And Sandy B. Law, who is of the LearnBiz, one word, the podcast, and Sandy B. Law shows here on YouTube. Go subscribe, y'all. Is using her professional expertise to kind of educate us tonight. Educate me too, sis, on what happens with our digital assets. So keep going, sis. Thank you.
So look at this image again now. After we've thought about these definitions, right? So we have our digital device, which we just got on and we said, hey, I want to get on YouTube. I completely ignore all the terms and conditions. But remember, my relationship starts at the point in which I start that account. And that relationship is controlled by the agreement that I didn't even look at, because who looks at these things? We just click and keep going, whether it's our cell phone provider, our healthcare, our financial accounts. We just keep clicking and it feels good. It's just like, all right, let's get this set up. But understand that even though you think you know what your relationship is with whatever the custodian is, Bank of America, your healthcare account, your rewards points, all those things, you may not know what it is that is required. And I had someone tell me that lives in a completely different state that in their particular state, there were some issues with trying to get access to her husband's accounts with whatever paperwork she had from those courts. And she was saying when she tried to access his email, he had already put in his intentions and he did not want anyone to have access to any of his accounts. So all she was able to get was a legacy. I think on Facebook, for example, they have these things where they can set up like a legacy thing where it allows you to see certain things. But the user dictates how much you can see.
That's very interesting. I love bringing up those type of special cases in this regard. Shout out to Fawcett Media. Yeah, good info for non-lawyers. David Hunt, nice to see you, says Quita G. This is also useful for us content creators as well. Miss Globe Girl, great to see you, sis. So all these YouTubers who believe they own their channels need to check again. This is what, a lot of what we keep saying, my channel, my, okay. There's nuance to that statement. It's a very broad statement they're making, and it's really the terms and conditions channel sounds like governing anyway what happens to the content. Quita adds, David, it is, and I'm pretty sure a lot of content creators aren't aware of this information. They should be watching. Y'all hit the like button. Yes, she knows there's always gray area. Absolutely.
True.
Thank you, Greg S says, great info. Glad you guys are enjoying it. Thank you, Needs Watches. Salute and welcome. Big up yourself. Appreciate you. And Rosalind Brinson on the super chat. Thank you. Awesome info. She says it is a good idea to keep a password list. That's the other thing. Y'all don't even hardly remember the password. I don't remember the passwords anyway. So I have to be careful. Where do I keep it? Do I make a new one? We have like 20 or less passwords dancing in our minds. But yeah, if something happens to you, what happens? So we're discussing some of the key points to transitions within digital assets or actually non-transitions of digital assets when people pass away, depending on, and it sounds like what is in the term of agreement. So we're going to get a little bit deeper into that. Rosalind, thank you so much for your support, showing love tonight, and I appreciate your generosity. Yes, password list can help, and I'm going to ask attorney Sandy B Law to go a little bit deeper into some of the things we can be doing, but I'm going to give it back on over to her as she continues to explain what's going on with the terms and conditions.
So, one of the things that we can do right now is make sure that we start to identify each of our digital assets and what the process is for each of those platforms. Because remember, this is kind of like who's your daddy? And basically, YouTube is your daddy. They're the custodian, right? They're controlling the situation because we agreed when we came into the agreement, and our relationship is based on that agreement. So, if you want to make sure that you protect yourself, you have to educate yourself first on what are the different rules for the different platforms. And each of them has completely different things going on. Now, with the invention of these digital assets laws, it's allowed for more opportunity for us to be able to access certain information. But again, if there is a clash between your and your law, you do understand that when it comes to law, if there's a law that already applies, you creating some documents like an estate plan, like a durable power of attorney or a will, is not necessarily going to, and excuse my use of this word, it's not going to trump the actual agreement that you already have. It's like when you
Sandy,
have a contract.
You cut out just a little bit. If there is a disagreement between, and it's like the word cut out right there. Just repeat that first line you said again, please.
If there's a disagreement between the contract, the relationship that you're in with your daddy,
yes,
then we can't just turn to our estate planning documents like a power of attorney or turn to the probate court and think that that's just going to resolve it, right? Because that agreement is very valid. You entered into it willingly, right? So we have to keep that in mind. That's that gray area that someone mentioned. There are shades of gray in this conversation. So there may be areas where you might get access with no issue, but there may be some other things that it's like, oh, hold up. You don't get all of this.
Do you think, and again, I don't know, it's all conjecture, what will happen in this specific case? We don't have access to any information about his specific access. All I know, there are websites that look up super chats. Did you know this, Sandy? And big up MC Recovery Wellness and Relapse Network on the super sticker. No comment, just love. Thank you for your support, my brother. I really, really, really appreciate that. But Sandy, I was saying they have whole entire websites dedicated to who has the most super chats, how much money they have. And I was looking at a list where Mr. Samuels, and I'm not pocket watching, it was someone sent it to me. I thought it was very interesting. It's like 300,000 in super chats over that last 30-day period or however they document it. And I thought, that's a lot of money in super chats that somebody's going to have access to. And if I'm a company, if I'm a the custodian,
right,
I want to keep it. Like, I'm not saying they will, but think about it just in a business form. Why would I give up all this revenue that will continuously kind of turn over? Advertisers people will still be clicking on videos. So they're going to try to assert their right, fight for their interest. Not saying, again, in this specific case, we don't have information about, all the positions, but we have access to that term of agreement because Sandy signed it and then I signed it too. And I'm ashamed of myself, Sandy, that I breezed right over.
Let me tell you, I
was
right
like, ding, 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 and I'm going to press accept. And that's actually, I do need to go back and read it and scrub through that thing and really understand what I've agreed to. And so should every content creator for that matter. But to digress, here we go. Thank you again. Hit the like button. Tonight's discussion is more informative. Again, Sandy B. From LearnBiz The Podcast, Sandy B. Law. You see her name there. Follow her. Please go check out her channel if you can. We're discussing what may or may not happen with Kevin Samuels' digital assets. It was just a question that we were both mutually curious about. And then Sandy having the background, having done custodianship, probate, and having the knowledge in this area of law. I thought she was the perfect guest, and clearly she is, teaching us a little bit. Again, I always want to caution you, none of this is direct legal advice, y'all. It's information for discussion and entertainment purposes. If you have a matter where you're dealing with the probate issue, you got to call a lawyer directly. That's the only way for you to get legal advice that will be suitable for you. So do not take anything we're saying here as legal advice. It's just simply for informational and discussional purposes. All right, now I got the legal disclaimers out of the way, Sandy. Go ahead. Please continue, my darling.
So now we go into kind of the
back
breakdown.
up just a little bit. The
Okay,
terms
go
of
back.
agreement. Go back to it, please.
Oh, yes. So the terms of agreement, the thing that you have to understand with this particular area is what Google is basically saying to us is if we don't address what it is that we want, then their terms and conditions will likely control. And please keep in mind that one of the things that Google is looking for you to do is to identify what your intentions are. Now, even if you don't identify who what your intentions are, you still have the opportunity, because with the probate court process, you have an opportunity to establish who is going to be the representative for the estate. And if, like, for an example, in this case, there is money involved. So it's not just the relationship, it's not just the content. We're talking about money. So the money has to go to the estate. The question is going to be, for how long will the money be collected from the content? And that's the part that I don't really have an answer to, right?
All right,
How
I'm gonna
long
need
are
you
they
to
going to be?
repeat that. Go ahead again, because you teaching me. Say it one more time, please.
So the big
For us to
question
know.
right now is, how long will YouTube allow the account to be active? Because what we don't know right now is, did Kevin Samuels go through this process of identifying his intentions under this inactive account manager feature, right?
Got it.
I don't know. I know that he has, attorney friends, he has a lot of professionals in his life. So it's very possible that someone has talked to him about, hey man, you're making a lot of money from your channels and these things. So maybe he does have some things established. And then we don't know also if he might have a trustee. He might have some other documents in place. He might have already established who is going to receive specifically the digital assets in this realm of YouTube.
I would hope.
Absolutely.
So either on the terms of an agreement side, and terms and conditions side, maybe designating it the way we've just described, that there is actually a terms and conditions page through Google and YouTube where you can designate who has access to what when your account is inactive, as they put it, because of any reason. And you can limit it. You can put a person's name. You can put even, I'm sure, like a company or entity or trust. There are so many ways you can determine where your digital assets will land. So let's hope that he did that. That's one possibility. Now, say he did not designate someone off rip. What happens then, Sandy?
Now, that's the answer that I have not arrived at just yet. But
yes,
what I will tell you, in trying to kind of really decipher through these digital assets laws here in Florida as well as in Georgia, is that the purpose of these laws was to fix this kind of separation between terms and conditions and the actual, probate and guardianship court processes. Because again, there was no preparation for this idea that we would have a digital space of assets. So these laws have come in to add some fluff to this information. And so the definitions that we're going to go through next.
All right, let's hit it.
Is going to be one example, right? So here in Florida, if I were to have a power of attorney, I can identify certain issues that I want addressed. And the same would go for having like a trust, where you can identify what's the coverage that my representative can have in terms of accessing everything that I created. So in this instance, we're going to look at what it means to have digital accounts identified in a power of attorney. So I'm giving you an example right now of...
Okay, let's get this slide up. Hit the like button, y'all. Sandy B doing work, y'all. Please honor her. Thank you. All right, let's get the slide up. Okay, here we go.
So I'm giving you an example here. This is a sample. So I went through one of my power of attorneys and I said, what is the language that we use for our digital assets here in Florida, right? So I started to realize that under our conversation about digital assets in the power of attorney itself, it talks about electronic systems for creating, generating, sending, sharing, communicating, receiving, storing, displaying, or processing information, which provides access to a digital asset, which is stored on any type of digital device. Now, look at how this plays in, right? Electronic systems. So when you think of YouTube, I know that we probably don't visualize it as like an electronic system, but in essence, it really is, because think about all of the different pathways that you have on YouTube. You not only are able to upload videos, you are able to do live streaming. You're not only able to do live streaming, you're able to do shorts. You're not only able to do shorts, you're able to post content in your community. In addition to that, you're able to sell merchandise and connect it to your YouTube channel. You're able to do super chats. You're able to do, I forgot what the other sticky
Super right now. Thank you, Coleman Technology, on the super sticker. Yes.
Super stickers. You're able to list things like your CashAPP and your PayPal or other things that you want to connect to. So again, this whole electronic system is housing your digital account, which is housing your digital assets, right? So in terms of looking at what digital accounts are, as an example, this is the long list that I have in one of my power of attorneys that covers the breadth of the types of things that would be considered digital accounts. Email, social networking. So when you guys are on things like, for example, LinkedIn and Alignable and some of these other platforms, file sharing accounts, right? Google Drive. You have, what's that thing that people use? Box. You have, all these things that you can hold your content, whatever it is, whether it's documents or pictures or images. Did anyone ever think of health insurance accounts as a digital account that you can house your digital assets, right? Your healthcare information.
This is crazy. I'm looking at all of this because we upload or we voluntarily give people information in their app, in their digital account. Yes. For almost everything now in life. People don't want you to just fill out a piece of paper and say you came to the dentist. Now you got to put it in a digital place.
Yes.
Which is akin to what you're discussing here. So just to give that some context, file sharing accounts, I'm going to make it big, Sandy, and you can just read them off. Again, This is for informational and discussion purposes only. If you have curiosity about what we're discussing, speak to a probate law or estate planning or anybody who knows about passing of assets, specifically one-on-one basis, so you can get your answers. But we're just giving you some information and knowledge tonight. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Hit the like button.
So healthcare accounts, right? Health insurance
bigger,
accounts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Our banking accounts, right? That Bank of America, the Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, credit card accounts. Did you ever think of your credit card account as housing digital assets for you? Travel related accounts. You guys get travel points and all of those things, travel accounts. That's a lot of little things that, domain registration accounts. Does anybody
how many of you guys own multiple websites?
Right.
A bunch.
Those are your assets. Yes. Domain name service accounts.
GoDaddy.
Web hosting.
Yeah. What did you say for real?
Tax preparation accounts. I didn't think about the tax preparation. Tax returns.
Yeah.
Online store accounts and affiliate programs. How many of you sign up for everything under the sun every time you go to a store? Including accounts with publishers, internet service providers, retail vendors, utility companies. I didn't even think about utility companies as housing my digital assets, and other online accounts or other comparable things. And I'm sure we can go down, all kinds of tunnels here. But let's look at what these digital assets are. And it's like everything that I can think of here: data, files, text messages, emails, documents. You think about those WhatsApps that you send. Hey girl, how you doing? What y'all doing today?
Yes, it's owned by you.
Audio,
video, digital account. Yes.
Those pictures that you're sending to whoever you're sending them to.
Not the email.
The sounds. Does anybody think of sounds as an asset, right? What if I create a beat and I send it to somebody? It's mine. It's a digital asset. Social media content. Like, just think of all of your social media stuff that you upload, that you created. Social networking content. Right now, LinkedIn has LinkedIn audio. Does anybody think of those things as ultimately becoming an asset? Apps, codes. I didn't even think the codes themselves is an asset. Our healthcare records, our health insurance records. Credit card points threw me out. I was like, credit card points? Wait a minute, the points have value. They're associated with something of value. Travel related miles and points. How many of y'all have those miles that you've been racking up for a long time? You take those. That is an asset to you. Computer source codes. Those of you who are in the tech space, computer programs, software licenses. For example, I use a software for certain different things that I, prepare certain types of documents. But I didn't think about this. All of the information that I input in that software, names, addresses, phone numbers, all types of information, I'm inputting it into someone else's system. Software licenses is something that many of us use in different ways. If you have Adobe Sign or any of these platforms where you sign up to have a user account, Canva, many of us use Canva for our content. I don't know if you know about Canva's trademark laws. Y'all might want to look into that. Databases. I was listening to a trademark attorney. On my Canva. They're like, you go create those logos on Canva.
But they give you a whole section. Now we got to go read these things, guys. And I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the fact that many of you guys are like, David says, that's right up my bag, making beats and sending it to somebody.
You just sent some digital assets.
DL, you guys, this is a food for thought, a lot of this, because we don't think about how many places that we put our information, put our, resources, place our resources. DL on the super chat says, outstanding show, Suzette. It's brave new world we're in. Yes. And I hope y'all taking notes. That's real. I'm thinking about, like to get half of my stuff.
Right.
Like now I got to go look at the terms of agreement on YouTube and probably hit up a designee quick. So at least, whoever won't have a problem getting to stuff.
Right.
Because I want someone to inherit my stuff. I want someone to, whether it's my niece, my people, whoever, I want someone to have this. I don't want this to what they call a sheet back to the state or go back to just the platform itself. But this is interesting. Thank you, DL, on the super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Sandy, you got me thinking about all the different places digitally that we have our information. Keep going, sis. This is like blowing my mind right now.
Look, I was losing it the other day. Including access credential, usernames, passwords, answers to secret questions. Imagine if you need the answers to the secret question, because that's the only way that they're going to let you access your loved one's account. That's a digital asset, which are created, generated, sent, communicated, shared, received, or stored by electronic means on a digital device. This is scary. Like when I really,
very broad,
think
actually.
about it.
Very broad.
Now.
Wow. Thank you again, DL. You guys hit the like button. Rosalind says, yes, on Canva. You have to be very careful. Make a will, Sue. I hear you, Guida G. Do a trust. Listen, I'm thinking about it more and more. I hear you. I'm telling other people to get ready. I need to get me prepared. God forbid. Because that's why we don't like to do it, Sandy. We think we calling it on our lives. We don't like to speak things, and that's a cultural thing. But it's real out here. And especially when you made money, put a lot of work into something like this. Your music, David, is valuable.
Yes.
And you want to be able to protect it and make sure the right people have access to it. Sandy B. Law, y'all, from LearnBiz The Podcast, as well as her own channel, Sandy B. Law, coming through for us tonight. You guys getting some great work, just even identifying the issue and allowing folks, thank you, Sandy, including myself, to really think about what would happen. You don't have to have a YouTube channel to enjoy this discussion tonight. Let's just be clear. But I'm glad she's here, y'all. Please show some love. Hit the like button for real. But keep going, Sandy. I'm just kind of very intrigued myself.
So now, remember, we've talked about digital assets. We've talked about digital accounts, right? But what about the devices? We're not thinking about the devices, right? So calculate this. I have 2 cell phones on me right now. One is an older phone that I use for just information because I have to access some stuff from that phone. And then one is my regular, work day-to-day phone. But how many times do we have stuff on our phone that doesn't transition from phone to phone? You ever think about those little in-between things that don't really transition, at least for some of us? But
I'm thinking about pictures. Like some people have phones just for pictures because that phone got the better camera. And then they have all these pictures on there. Yes. And who gets access to them? Wow.
So electronic devices that can create, generate, send, share, communicate, receive, store, display, or process information. So again, let's look at the whole gamut, right? If you're a techie, think about these servers. Nobody thinks about server as a digital device that gets you to the point of dealing with accounts and assets, right? Desktops, laptops. So right now I have a laptop in front of me. I have a desktop. I have these two mobile phones. I have my GoPro. I have my external hard drives. I have my other hard drive. I have my backup drive. I have my tablet. I have another cell phone. So I got a whole bunch of digital devices.
Like me. And this is great, Sandy, because everyone thinks property. We think asset as physical,
Yes.
touching. We think of the car. We think of the house. We may even think of the only digital one we may think about is the bank account, but it's the
Yes.
money, the stocks even. But we haven't gone kind of deep enough, and I can see the rabbit hole you're referring to now when it comes to
it was bad.
Man, the definition by law of digital device, the definition by law of and what the asset is, the carrier, the term of agreement, right? Who controls when your will says one thing and your term of agreement says something else. This is a lot of info, guys. I hope you're able, even maybe watch it twice to digest it. CVN, nice to see you. Canadian born Nigerian says Black tech support matters for real. Yes. Greg S says Samsung Pass. You can't screenshot your passwords. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And thank you. I saw you, Chef Supino says Living Trust. Hello, 100. Let's
1,000.
go. Especially if you have others that depend on you. But just in terms of if you have assets, period.
Yes.
Good day to you, brother. Mona's like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start.
Mona, imagine me last night.
You. Yeah, that was Sandy doing the homework. Come on, I haven't seen you in a while, sir. Just want to give you a special hello. Says, I don't like that people maintain social media accounts for loved ones who have passed away. Interesting. I like my digital presence to be erased. Interesting. If I'm no longer here. We'll talk about that and what you can do to ensure that. But yeah, isn't that interesting? I see people posting on people's stuff of the people that's gone on, and it is kind of eerie. At least I'll say that. They may have their reasons to why they do it, but it is a little eerie. And I'm saying pass the passing announcement. If you give me the passing announcement, go ahead, Sandy.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to add something to what Kimo said, because the intention that he just made known here is exactly one of the things that I was looking at when I'm looking through the Google information, because it's like they want to protect our information. We're the user. Our intention matters. Our desires matter. What we want is more important than other people getting access. So they want to protect us and our privacy and the things that we have, even if, stuff slips all the time, but they want to protect us, from others being able to access.
Even though we're gone, they want to, their intent is to carry out our wish, not the family's wish, not what they think you would have wanted, but use evidence to help determine what we talking about parole evidence now, Sandy. We using some kind of indication. Let's just break it down. Context clues as to what you would have wanted if you didn't make a direct statement. I'm loving it. Quita G again, sponsor of the stream. Thank you.
Oh wow.
She says we all want to live a long life, but death is inevitable. Man, death and taxes. Life insurance, will, trust, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, all of we didn't even get to that tonight, darling. Who gonna make healthcare decisions? Y'all be in a hospital bed writing up stuff to who go. I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny if you're actually in that life and death. Let me pull this down for a quick second because I want them to see us because this is important. What Quita G is bringing up. But yes, ma'am. I have done. Actually, I didn't put this show on YouTube, but I have done an interview. Georgia Williams, Miss Sandy B. I did an interview with her on a show that I was producing for myself. But on that show, Georgia gave me the 5 of what most people will need in terms of when we say get your affairs in order. Everybody loves that term, get your affairs in order.
Georgia's
we don't really know what that means. She also does wills, trusts, and estates, right? But people are afraid of it. People like to think it's not, first of all, that you have all this time and it's hard. And here I am preaching to myself. Hello, I can kind of hear myself saying, but you need to do it too. But yes, so yes, Quita G, great points, and thank you for sponsoring tonight's stream. We all want to live a long life, but death is inevitable. Life insurance, will, trust, power of attorney, healthcare proxy. That was one that Georgia had spoken to me about extensively, because people don't really think about, if they're in the hospital, if they get sick, who is really going to make decisions, especially if you're not married. Right? This is a big problem. This is a very interesting and can be handled before the medical emergency. So it's good to know that are all important, especially given this knowledge Sandy is sharing. This is excellent content. I'll read that again. Healthcare proxy are all important, especially given all this knowledge Sandy is sharing. This is excellent content. Okay, reading is fundamental. Thank you. Appreciate you, Quita G. What would you say in response to that?
I think it's essential. You have to think about these different components and figure out, I need to have some coverage. I need to have documents that say what I want. I need to be able to address what my intentions are, because like Chemo said just a moment ago, I don't want that. That's not what I want. So if we know now what he wants, he has to have certain things in place to make sure that actually happens.
Absolutely. So it's great. Chemo, they might use this actual stream as evidence. They might be like, well, he said one time on the SuzetteSpeaks show, y'all like we doing work. Thank you again, Quita G. My sister, showing love in this space. We're here with YouTuber and attorney Sandy B. Law, doing so much good work, helping us understand not only for Kevin Samuel's digital assets what may or may not happen, but for ourselves, based on these terms of agreements that we have entered into, and what exactly our digital asset portfolio looks like is what she's getting into. Y'all show some love. Appreciate the likes. Appreciate you sharing the content. Bookmark it and watch it again. But again, Sandy B is the co-host of LearnBiz The Podcast, so you can check it out and go subscribe. And as well as her Sandy B Law page, you can go ahead and subscribe. Again, what will happen to Kevin Samuel's digital assets? Well, first of all, how many of you guys knew all of these were considered digital assets? We've been thinking just his YouTube show and income, and we've already brought up the point whether the platform itself will allow for it to stay active is a big question mark, right? We just think, oh, it's going to live on forever. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. To remain active, again, read the terms and conditions. So we're going to do a little bit more digging in terms of what Florida versus Georgia law says, and then I'm going to drop the link. So if you have a few questions, she has some time now to answer. And again, this is very interesting stuff to us, lady lawyers. So we hope it is to you. So if it is, hit the like button, please. All right, Sandy, I'll stop interrupting you. But yes, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying this.
No, this is great. This is great. When I tell you rabbit hole was happening in real effects. So when I thought about digital assets, I wasn't thinking about the devices, and I wasn't thinking about the access points and who's in control and where the agreement came from. So this was eye-opening for me as well.
Absolutely.
So tablets, laptops, desktops, peripherals, mobile phones, smartphones, PDAs. We don't have PDAs anymore, at least not to my knowledge. Electronic books, electronic watches. You guys wearing those like Fit watches and those Apple watches and all the watches that have all these extra features. So these pieces of information all came as a sample from one of my powers of attorney. So this is something that a person put all of these things as access points for their agent. So the person that they appointed as their power of attorney.
Who gets your Apple Watch? Who gets your digital device? That's very important, though.
Yeah.
It seems simple, but it is actually very important. So this is a lot of food for thought. Wow. And this came from an agreement, not specific, but just items mentioned when she had presented it, but it's not an all-inclusive list. Again, you'd have to speak with an attorney one-on-one for your particular situation, but this is just to give us a taste of what might be included in a will, a trust, or some other type of agreement that you might plan for the future using in a legal way. So thank you, Sandy. This is great. Electronic devices can create, generate, send, share, communicate, receive, store, display, or process information, including servers, desktops, laptops, tablets, peripherals. Mobile telephones, smartphones, personal digital assistants. Gosh, Siri too? Jeez.
Look, Siri is learning a
Wow.
lot from you. You storing some
You
information on
guys, your
Siri.
whole personality is what Siri got saved.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is very interesting. I'm going to drop the link. Keep going, Sandy. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
So digital devices. So again, this is a sample from a Florida durable power of attorney. We talked about the electronic body and activity monitoring equipment. That's all the stuff that we try to use for like fitness needs and
Fitbits?
other. It's just crazy. Audio and video recorders. Now, we don't use this as much. I remember in law school, or maybe it was years before law school, that I used to use those like recorders and things every so
And
often.
dictate and
Yeah.
yes, and record what you said. Yep.
People, flash drives and hard drives. Now, hard drives, it made sense to me, but I wasn't really thinking flash drives. These little drives that we go around with, and sometimes we lose them and we have them all over the place.
Yes.
But it has information that is valuable potentially to us. Digital memory cards. And any similar storage device which currently exists or may exist as technology develops, or such comparable items as technology develops. Because remember, we're not trying to say that this is the end all, because we didn't anticipate this. So if we didn't anticipate this, imagine what's coming next. Look at this metaverse, NFTs. Where does that fall into this? Obviously, they can do it under the catch-all, but don't you think eventually that it's going to get to a point where that's going to have to be incorporated as well? So it's just really, really important for you to think about all of this. And that this is the last slide, because I didn't want to go too far off the deep end, because I started to realize that it was just going into a rabbit hole.
You've been thorough. We got so much information, Sandy. We good with price of admission. They can go to their lawyer, acting like they know what they got going. You're welcome, guys. We have started a deep conversation. I've dropped the link. So if you guys have any, Sandy has about 10 more minutes. So if you guys have any specific questions that we can at least point you in the right direction, but you have to definitely set up an appointment one-on-one with an attorney to get down to the nitty gritty, right? We'll try to give you, directional information, but as I said, it's hard to give any kind of legal advice. That's why we don't do it here on YouTube.
Right.
So you have to call an attorney directly. But I appreciate all the work you put in, sis. This is like, again, opening my eyes to how many, I have so many accounts.
Right.
From banking to this. I like, now I really want to just go right down and enumerate, and then find a piece of paper that I'm going to put everything on and say, Trust. This is my power attorney. This is where you guys going to have access to, because this is a list of everything. I'm thinking about it. I have a lot of, a long, let's say, digital imprint, right. Like footprint might be a better way of putting it. I haven't really thought about who would get access to any of that. So terms of agreements, terms and conditions matter, because oftentimes they control. So if they are different from state law, let's say, for example, in Florida, does the term and agreement trump what a state law would say?
So that's where the tricky part comes, because what it's going to come down to is, what does the digital assets law in that state say versus what does the terms and conditions say, versus what the family is actually trying to get access to, right? Yeah. And then we have to add the point of, well, in this Kevin Samuels situation, did he already identify what he wanted? We don't know, and we probably won't know for quite some time, right? So if he identified what he wanted, our conversation here is just done with, right? He's already established. Mm-hmm. If he had other things in place, like a will, a trust, those documents may be able to give some identification as to what he wants to happen to his accounts, but it's going to come down to, does the language there conflict with the language in the terms and conditions? And is, what's the leeway? There has to be like some gray, right?
Definitive determination, basically. Right. So when these things go through the probate process, and just explain again what we mean when we say probate, because a lot of people are like, I don't have no assets, I don't need to probate. And I'm like, ma'am, look, I don't mean to laugh, because people don't really know. I shouldn't take it lightly. It's just that people don't know. So when I hear things, I had a neighbor the other day tell me, his mom passed. Unfortunately, he just need a real estate attorney so he could sell the property. I'm like,
No.
That's not who you need, actually. You're going to need a probate attorney. But in common knowledge, people don't know this. So just define that. And again, guys, panel is open. We have a few minutes left. So if you have questions, now is the time to come up. But answer that for me, darling. What is meant by the term probate and what occurs during a probate?
So the key thing to understand about probate is it is a court process, and it's intended to make sure that when someone passes away, whatever it is that they had is distributed to the proper people. So let's use Kevin Samuels as an example. Kevin Samuels passes away. If he has a will, his will gives the probate court the necessary instructions regarding what he wants to happen to everything that he owns. Now, the will does not do any transfers of anything, right? You have to go through the court process. Then you're going to get orders from the court so that you can get access to whatever it is. So it may be that the will says everything that I own goes to my child. So if the person goes through the court process, they'll get the necessary court orders. So they would have a court order that says, any assets with YouTube, for example. They'll have a court order that says any assets at this bank. They'll have a court order that says, all of these different things, because when you file a petition with the probate court, you are identifying who the family is of this person that is entitled to receive whatever the person had. You're identifying what that person owned. So let's use Kevin Samuels' example here. Kevin Samuels passes away. In Florida, we ask, was he married? If he wasn't married, then we ask, did he have children? If he didn't have children, then we say, okay, did he have living parents? If he didn't have living parents, then we would go to siblings, right? So we have to identify who the family is that would be in line to receive whatever Kevin Samuels had. Once we do that identification, now we have to identify what are his assets. And here's where this digital assets conversation is really, really important, because his hands were probably in a lot of different things when it comes to this digital space, right? You have the channel itself. You have the other businesses that he may have had that came from the channel.
The Facebook groups, the Patreon.
All of that.
The paid, whatever pages he had.
Consultations, all that.
It's not just YouTube. Point taken, yes.
Yes. So in the probate petition, you're going to identify all of the things, at least that because of course we're going to discover things along the way, but whatever it is that is known has to be identified. And then the person that is petitioning the court is going to say, okay, this is his family. This is what he had. This is how it should be distributed. Because according to the Florida law, there's certain rules and regulations. But since we have a will, Kevin Samuel, if we had a will, right? If we have a will, Kevin Samuels can say, I want everything to go here.
He would have spoken for himself. If
Correct.
A will exists, we do not know, but Correct. We're just saying, for argument's sake, if we had one, he's just giving his directions. You would give your directions. This is where I want. The court can make a determination based on, okay, here's evidence first and foremost of what they wanted, the person who passed wanted. So yes, so it changes the game. I saw Equita G wrote, yeah, it's going to be messy if there's no will. Oh, and that's the true statement. That's going to be a true statement. Yeah. Go ahead.
Pray
so if you get to a probate, which is again trying to determine where assets should rightly go. So if you have a will, you're considering the will. If you don't have a will, you're considering, for example, in Florida, the Florida law has a disbursement statute that says, like she's saying, okay, were you married? Then okay, it goes here. Okay, no, then children. If not, or then parents. And if not, then siblings. If not, then grandparents. Like the state will determine who gets your assets at that point by law. Right?
And every state,
law. Go ahead, Islam.
And every state has their own laws of what's called intestate succession. Because when you have a will, it's called testate. When you don't have a will, it's called intestate. And
legal
every
term,
state, right? Every
intestate, state, no will.
Yep, nothing.
You die with the will. You take me back. Oh my gosh! So you want to die testate with a will?
Yes.
But we have hearings for intestate people all the time because they die without a will. Yep.
And so if you don't have a will, then based on your state, it's going to dictate where it's going to go. But here's the other thing that people don't think about in the probate court process: creditors, credit card companies, mortgage company, IRS, alimony, child support, contractors' liens. all of these different things that we may interact with, loans, outstanding, whatever it may
We only
be.
want the money, Sandy. We don't want to pay back people they owe. Come
Nah,
on.
their
We just want the money.
medical bills,
Yes.
all of that.
People don't really think about creditors for sure. So there's
Right.
so much here, guys, where you got to seek an attorney's counsel. If this is an issue that you want to get deeper into, make something for yourself, for example.
Right.
Read your terms and conditions first and foremost, and then also maybe plan to speak with an attorney so you can determine if there's a document that you need to create to say exactly what, for example, what Chemo said, which is, I don't want my Facebook to be around forever. Delete it. You know, there's a thing. There was a story once upon a time about Facebook called "The Right to Be Forgotten." Like, Facebook want to just keep your stuff up forever, and other people are like, no, I want this gone. So it's a very interesting body of law. It's an evolving body of law. That's why we're leaving a lot of, gray area, because it is left to be seen what will control, right? Because you have the state laws that happen to be there in case you didn't write up your own. You have your will, which you can help make the determination to tell people what you want. And then you have the terms and conditions of the agreement. So it's kind of three things operating together. Chemo says he enjoyed. Fantastic. Last call. Panel is closed. Last call. I've dropped the link a couple times, so y'all might just be taking it in, and that's fine too. I'm definitely going to have Sandy be back, and I'll be on her channel next Tuesday, 6 p.m. on LearnBiz The Podcast. But Chemo says, fantastic info. This knowledge crosses so many different avenues of technology. Of technology, law, estate planning, privacy, yes, healthcare. Much thanks to Sandy and Suzette it was really Sandy for this info. And I appreciate you saying yes, my love. If we don't have any guests, we're going to allow her to kind of make a final statement here. And you guys know we have a busy week. We had all ladies this week. I'm sorry, and you're welcome at the same time. And then next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Intentional Millionaire will be visiting me on Monday at 7. Tuesday, Perry Unlikely, because I'll be on LearnBiz at 6. We'll come over here at 8:30, depending on what time we finish on LearnBiz The Podcast. And then I have Harrison Family Vlogs next Thursday. So we have a beautiful lineup. And then Saturday, I think I'm going to do an open chat, because we've still got a lot of folks chiming in, writing me about the KS show. The Kevin Samuels show with I Am Michelle was phenomenal. Sandy, you was a part of it too.
Yeah, I caught the end.
With all the feedback and people obviously care. People want to keep talking about it. So I think I might make Saturday an open chat. No show tomorrow, but we were just doing back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, guys. So I get my 4 shows for the weekend. But we stay working, Sandy. We stay big. We got jobs and we got YouTube. So we got to take care of all ends, right? But again, Chemo, thank you. Like I said, I've noticed, I was like, I haven't seen him in a while. So glad to have you. I know sometimes it's hard to catch live shows, so that's fine. Team Replay is just as good and appreciated. Of course, the super chat is very much appreciated. So thank you for your generosity, brother. And y'all, please go support Sandy's channels. Please go subscribe and check her out. Yes, Quita G says, yes, very much more complicated passing without a will.
Right.
So if you probably Georgia law, because we're talking Florida law, since he was not married, thank you. His daughter is first in line if he had no will. Again, terms and conditions apply. So we'll leave that there. But based on the information we have now, again, guys, we don't have access to his estate and everything that he has, and if he had a will or not. Maybe when we get that information, we can come back and do a little part 2, so that could start to, kind of fill in the blanks of the gray areas right now. But we can only tell you, based on some of the definitions of digital assets, what he owns. And then again, the dance between the terms and conditions, the state law, and the will. That's a very interesting concept of law that I'm sure, we will be talking about for some time, because digital assets are here to stay. But Sandy, thanks for this disclaimer. You know it, because he ain't had no wife. So we got.
Does anybody know if his daughter was a minor?
I think she's over 18.
Okay, good.
I think she's over 18.
That would have been a whole nother box of issues too.
Yeah, because if she was a minor, that was a whole nother ball game too. Appointing guardians and things like this. Yes. Yeah. So Sandy B, final word from you, my love.
So my final word is this. I know that this is not the sexiest area of law. I know that this is not what you really want to spend your Wednesday night talking about. But I was intrigued when I found out about the passing of Kevin Samuels for many different reasons, because, I saw, the polarization, the way that people reacted, which I was just like, someone passed away, have some respect, you know what I mean? But at the same token, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like a colossal story of, how our assets matter in situations where, we work so hard to get to certain points. But if we're not prepared for the, you know, inevitable, right? We're all going to pass away at some point in time, but most of us don't think we're going to pass when we're as young as this, as Kevin Samuels was. So I think it's really important for us to really consider what we can do to secure all of our assets, right? Most of the time we think about our real estate, we think about our financial accounts, we have beneficiaries for different things, but this is an area where if you are really about this YouTube life, this social media life, the NFTs, the metaverse, all of these things in this tech space, you have to do your due diligence and make yourself clear on what are those terms, conditions, policies. Chemo as a perfect example. I appreciate his comment so much because we sometimes think that we're just entitled to access. Your relationship does not give you entitlement. So it does not matter that you're husband or wife, that you are daughter or son, that you are mother or father. Your relationship does not give you entitlement, because I want you to think of it from an individual perspective. I don't want somebody accessing any of my stuff. I don't want you in my phone. I don't want you in my email. I don't want you in my hair. Like, I don't want you in my stuff. So if that's the case, I have to be clear on those intentions now and get that set up, because otherwise I won't have a voice at that point in time. So that's what I want to leave folks with.
Deep words of wisdom. Y'all give it up for Miss Sandy B. Law. Check out her channel. You have been so helpful. Again, for content creators and non-content creators. I'm sure this conversation was very eye-opening, filled with good information, helpful information that anyone going about their daily lives can use. So whether it's now or later or soon, these are conversations that we have to have. We are all, like she said, living. But again, we don't know what tomorrow holds. So having your intentions known, I guess, is the best way, the upside of looking at this. Like, no one wants to think about passing away. No one wants to think about, death. But if I don't want no people in my phone. I don't want, talk about your loved ones, but I don't want no people around my computer. It's better to have something in place. And even if you do want them to have access to your Facebook, email, Gmail, Siri them, all of this, you should spell it out so that the court doesn't have the last say, or the terms and agreement at least can be, challenged. We won't know. Right. Judge will make that determination ultimately. But Sandy, I've enjoyed it. Y'all, have you enjoyed this conversation? Show some love. Appreciate all the support. Thank you, Quita G, being the sponsor of tonight's show. This was a little different, a little bit more informative. So if you enjoy it, please share it. And again, comment after the video, below the video, so people who come across it will have a sense of what it's about, and hopefully we'll take a peek inside. So yes, get the likes up. I need them likes up. Come on, y'all. 150. I need a 150. They say yes. Drop in gems. Enjoy. Thank you, RM, Busy, Sunbreeze, all of my mods. Thank you. LearnBiz The Podcast on YouTube. For sure, is a place that you need to check out. Again, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, if you're interested in what mistakes people have made, what they've learned, so you don't make those same mistakes, you got to check out their channel. I applaud them. They do a quick show, actually. It's like 20, 30 minutes. It's not even that long of a watch. So you can get the information. You can find out, some good points of business, basically, from people in all kinds of industries. So I'll be on there next week. Y'all ready for me? Please come over and support. Yes. What they say is that 150 likes yet, so I can say goodnight to Sandy. Let me let Sandy know. Sandy. Okay. What about yes, I want 150 likes. Yes. We are busy. So next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 12 noon. I usually go live in the evenings, y'all. So that's been my schedule. So Monday, Intentional Millionaire. Tuesday, Perry Unlikely. And Thursday, we have Harrison Family Blogs. 123. No, I'm not going to be here all night. Hopefully we get 150. But I've had such amazing shows this week. And thank you, Sandy, for making this one amazing. Cat First Lady says yes. I'm appreciative. Y'all hit the like button before you leave, please. Sandy, stay around. I'm just going to drop you down. But y'all, for real, please go. Andre talking about, hi, Andre, team replay. We're about done. But it's been a fun and very in-depth look at legal issues that may occur. Again, we are not the attorneys handling the probate or having access to any wills if they exist. We are going by, the probability of things happening. Thank you, Sandy, for kind of comparing and contrasting. Georgia, you did research, girl, because we don't do Georgia law. See how they define all these terms gave us a lot of food for thought. So go check out LearnBiz, no space, LearnBiz The Podcast is the name of it. And Sandy B. Law is the name of her channel. Thank you, moderators, for dropping those channels. And again, Sandy, hang out, please, for a quick second. I appreciate everyone watching. I hope you enjoyed this. This was a little bit more legal, heavy lifting. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'll probably do a quick survey for two things. Thanks to Courtney, Michelle, and all of you, all of my new subs. I'm almost at 4,000. This is exciting. So excited. So I want to kind of find out what are the subject matters that you guys enjoy most. So I think on my community tab, I'm going to ask, whether you want to see more politics, law, social justice, whether you want to see more current events, whether you want to see personal growth and development, mental health, and those type of topics, or you want marriage and relationships. I know there's a lot of popularity around those type of things. So I will get a gauge. I think I'm going to do I hope I wanted to hit the big 4,000 when I thought it would be, I don't know when, but it might be before the end of the month, like way before the end of the month. So that's huge, y'all. Thank y'all. I've been watching those numbers. Lee always say, don't watch the numbers, but people come, people go. It's all love. But I appreciate those who rock with me. I really do. And for my Patreon members, you know what's up. Like I said, this weekend is probably will rock. And then we're going to do probably 2 gatherings this month when Bernard S. does. I think he has his own show live. And then he's going to come over to Patreon and we're going to do some, intimate conversations about life lessons, right? That's what I really, really enjoy. So if you want to support my content in a bigger way, please go over to Patreon. I also offer every now and then some behind the scenes of my life and what I do and who I am. But I've enjoyed this. Y'all, shout out to Sandy B. Y'all go over and please show some love and please, please, please support. We are building one another as we grow. Right. So that's why, I enjoy doing shows by myself. I enjoy collabs. So I'm in a collaboration type of mood right now. Saturday will probably be solo, Saturday at 12, and get some feedback. And you guys will be my speakers. Again, I think we're still in a frame of mind of like digesting what happened to Mr. Samuels and his impact. So I might make that an open chat and everybody who wants to come up can voice their opinion. So Saturday at 12 noon, mark your calendars, is the next live. I'll probably post some clips here and there in between, but I've enjoyed it. Miss AKA Lady says, thanks, Sandy, for sharing your knowledge. And Sandy says, thanks everyone for watching. Yes, we're getting there. Join the Patreon, 4K in May. Hip, hip, hooray. Yes. RM, can you believe this? I don't know. I didn't, sometimes you don't even realize the impact you're having. So appreciate the love, Sandy says from the chat, and appreciate everyone being here. Yes, Andre, it's okay. Team replay, just as good, just as welcome. But yes, okay, Andre says wants more personal growth. Some of y'all, I be getting deep into people's lives and, talking to different pastors. And that's what next Thursday will be like. We'll talk money at the beginning of the week, and then we're going to get personal development and growth and life lessons and resolution towards the end of the week. So I'm still kind of like, again, just opening up what I'm talking about, what I'm interested in. So as my channel grows, obviously, I'll try to see if I niche down to what you guys really, really enjoy the most and kind of build on that foundation and then sprinkle the other things. But for right now, we having fun, y'all. What's up? Hit the like. Am I at 150? Can somebody please tell me that I'm at least maybe 130 so I can proudly leave this stream because it was that darn good. So are we at 1:30? Can one of my mods just tell me what we're at so I can feel proud of it? Because that was great information, y'all. So, and for the free. So go look at your terms and agreements. Go look at the Google in specific. 126. All right. You hurt my feelings, guys. I thought we were at least at 1:30 so I can go to my bed happy. But I appreciate y'all. Thanks, Quita G, on the supers. I'm going to let y'all go. But I'll see you guys Saturday, 12 noon. Again, Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays. Most times every week, 7 or 8 around that time. So welcome, yes, sweet dreams, and welcome to the newbies that are a part of the community. The speakers are in the building, so I appreciate each and every one of you guys being here and being a part of this growth and this journey overall. So shout out to everyone watching. Team Replay in the building. Somebody says, I love it. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm doing it for the people. Like I said, I do things that I enjoy as well. But again, as we get bigger, we will figure this thing out together and move. All right. So appreciate. Yes. Imagine that. No, you're right. Let me step back. My girl RM remind me a few months ago, we would have only had a 37. Look, we had live again, almost 75 people today watching live. Yesterday, 170 something watching. I'm like, thank God for growth. So yes, let's look at the glass half full and not half empty. This is what we do over here. Personal growth. Thank you for that reminder, RM. That indeed in time, indeed you can't watch numbers. You have to be in alignment. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Anyway, bye guys. Thank you for watching. Glad you enjoyed. Please go subscribe to Sandy B Law as well as LearnBiz the podcast. And thank you again for watching. Hit the like button on your way out. Have a great night. I'll see you on Saturday.